Okay, the recording is on, so we'll get started. Good morning, I'm Mike Jensen, County Extension Director and Associate Professor in Pend Oreille County. I'm also the State 4-H Camp Specialist. And today we're talking about the exciting topic of policies and standards. And this is something that I spend most of the year looking at and working on. And we're going to go through this, and I'm hoping that this will be a discussion, that it won't just be a monologue on my part. As many of you know, I am very comfortable with awkward silence. So when I ask the question, I'll let you know that we're looking for responses and would appreciate if you unmute and then reply. Or you can use the chat box if you liked as your mechanism for replying. But I'm asking you for the next half hour to 45 minutes to be fully engaged in this presentation and discussion, so that we can really kind of make the use out of your investment of time into this session. And I'm happy to go as long as you and the questions continue, and happy to follow up with individuals if we need to as well. So today we're going to look at the 4-H camp standards, look at the policy discussion, and of course the main purpose of our 4-H camp standards is to provide guidance in the administration and sustainable camping programs, provide a safe, fun atmosphere to assist our youth in developing life skills. And as you know, camp is one of the 7 different delivery mechanisms that we have for the 4-H Youth Development Program in Washington. And for those of you who know me, you know that camp is probably my favorite delivery mechanism, just because of the intensity of the interaction and the partnership between caring adults and youth, and in the outdoor setting, and really kind of making that connection that results not only in life skill development, but in a perfect outdoor classroom for the dealing with life skills. And camp can make a very positive impact, lifelong impact, on young people who have been part of camp. And we all know that many of our volunteers that are associated with camp do so because of the positive development experience that they had when they were a youth themselves. And so camp is always near and dear to my heart because of my early camp experiences, and then basically seeing what camp can do for 4-H programs, and especially for youth within our community. So just like at camp, we always start with the 4-H pledge. So if you would please join me in the 4-H pledge. I pledge my head to clearer thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, my health to better living, for my club, my community, my country, and my world. So thank you. I also like to make sure that we celebrate our connection with USDA and our commitment to service to all, with our civil rights commitment, and with our disclaimers that are important. And I put this slide in every one of my presentations. So let's begin the policy discussion. So the overarching policies we have that govern 4-H in Washington were redesigned in 2016. And as depicted on the right-hand side of the slide, the primary document we have is the 4-H Policy and Procedure Handbook. And all of us have seen that, and we've trained our volunteers on that. And that is the overarching policies for all 4-H programs, including camp. And there are a few places within that policy document that it talks about 4-H resident camp, and especially with 10.5, where it talks about that 4-H resident camps will comply with the Washington State 4-H resident camp standards, and then gives you the link to the 4-H standards. So we've all seen this. The the important component here is the expectation that all resident camps will comply with the camp standards. So that's an important component there, as well as all the other policies that are part of the state 4-H policy and procedure handbook apply to camps as really kind of that bigger picture overarching. So any questions about that? Pretty straightforward. And we're all now steeped in the new procedures.
Hey, Mike,
yes.
Can I ask a question? So
sure.
Can you define what resident camp means?
Sure. So basically, resident camp is going to be any overnight camp. It can also apply and has been applied to things like rallies and other events that go overnight in the past. So for those that are longer than 3 days, then the standards kick in. For those that are less than 2 days, the standards say that you look at the standards and apply the ones that would make sense. But if it is a resident camp and impacts more than one club, then the standards apply. So if it is a solely just a club camp, then that's up to the local county office to determine which standards they would hold that group to comply. From a legal liability protection standpoint, the more the better, because you would have to make the argument, presumably in court, as to why you did not have that group follow the standards as they are written in the state. And there may be some opportunities where that may come into play. But if you have questions about that, let me know. And just also know that we are in the process, that there's a small group that's in the process of reviewing the camp standards and hopefully making changes that kind of modernize the standards. And we'll probably look at, with your input, of looking at basically some language that would talk about policies and then standards. And we'll talk about the differences in those in just a couple seconds. But so currently, this is the standard document that basically you would use to work with any overnight camping opportunities with 4-H groups, and then anything that goes over 2 nights, so 3 nights, and more than one club, then enacts the intent to camp documentation, and then the risk management plan. But for those of you who are on the webinar on Tuesday, my suggestion is that you use a similar procedure, even if it's just a single club that's doing a camping for a couple nights. Then I would have them go through and give you the information that's included in the intent to camp, and then put together a risk management plan that would basically cover the type of activities that they're doing as a club camp as well. In those cases, I don't need to see those. Those remain with the county. But it's only once it's 3 nights or more than one club, that I get involved in the intent to camp and then in the risk management planning. So is that clear? So what about a program that's run by another camp agency? So if it's 4-H, if it's a 4-H group that is going to another, so a 4-H after school that's going to another, if it's truly a 4-H activity, then our standards would come into play. You may run into camp facilities that have more stringent standards than what we do, but if it is truly a 4-H activity that is using that is using basically the clover and covered by our liability, then our standards come into play. There are times that there's after school groups who may not be completely 4-H, but really is that school, and they may have a camping opportunity, but where we may have a program kind of component, but not necessarily the full running of the camp. And in that case, they would have other standards that they're applying. And Brian, you're also asking about the ACA. So the ACA standards are actually much more stringent than our 4-H standards would be. It's my understanding that our camp standards were actually kind of some of them were borrowed from ACA, but then not the full. I think currently there's more than 120 ACA standards that if a camp is ACA accredited, that they have had to basically certify and basically document that they're there. So if they're running it and we are contracting with them, it's their standards and liability. Depends on the contract, Brian, because I have seen contracts where there was not a release of liability for camp type activities. So that would be on a case-by-case basis. But happy to work offline with you on any of those kinds of things. The ACA standards are pretty pretty rigorous, and each year I go to 1 or 2 camps as a volunteer for ACA and work through the accreditation process. They call us visitors with camps around the Pacific Northwest, and so I'll talk a little bit more about the ACA in just a couple minutes. But yeah, Brian, happy to have that discussion with you about the military camps as that kind of comes up. But for us, currently it's the resident camp standards, and wanted to go through just a little bit about talking about want to talk a little bit about the difference between policies, standards, guidelines, and procedures. And so for a good definition for policy would be that it provides kind of an overarching emphasis, that it really kind of sets a direction, and that it's signed by and recognized by management. So a standard are connected to the policies, and there are specific uniform methods that support those policies. So somebody's got their mic open, and I'll mute that. The standards are typically, there's compliance is mandatory. And when we talk about the ACA standards for accreditation, it gets a little complex there in that the ACA standards for accreditation are actually a voluntary compliance by camps, but in order to get their accreditation, they have to comply with the standards. And then guidelines are just kind of the suggested actions to consider in the absence of applicable standards. So it's really kind of the gray areas where discretionary usage comes in, and those areas, when they're identified, can be used to create new standards down the road. So, and then procedures are going to be kind of the step-by-step instructions. So those would be the things that you do within your camp that are part of typically your camp guidelines, your camp procedures that you use to basically operate your camp. So any questions on the policies, standards, guidelines, or procedures? Okay, not hearing any, not seeing any in the chat box. So I'm gonna, we'll see if we can move on. Let's see if I can clear my annotations. There we go. So let's talk about WSU 4-H policies that impact camps. So what are your questions? So that the policies. Now, the policies are the general 4-H policies. The standards are the camp standards. So within our policy document, what are your questions? No questions about the policies, so everyone kind of clear on the policies and where they interface with camp. Okay, so Sherry, that's a good one. The cabin parents in camp, and cabin parents in cabins, which is basically from the 4-H policy, where separate housing for youth and adults. And that's a good one, and one that I know we're going to try to get clarification as we kind of move forward. And I know it's one that probably is going to be, like I said, one that gets a fair amount of clarification as we look at it. I know that there's a number of different viewpoints for parents in cabins, and from a safety standpoint, from a historic, this is the way we've done business, for years. And then the other hand, looking at protecting children, and then protecting volunteers, so that we're safe in how we do that. So yeah, it's in many cases depends on how the camp is set up, and what the parameters are for those individual camps. And so I think in the future camp standards that we'll try to address that.
Mike, this is Jennifer. So do you want us to ask questions verbally or in the chat box?
Either way. So
Okay.
it's just for some folks, they're more comfortable with the chat box, so I'd encourage that. If not, then happy to have them interface directly.
Well, I'm willing to do verbally because I can talk faster than I can type.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if this is quite to ask right here, but so can non-4-H members attend camp?
So to kind of make sure that we've got the liability coverage and for volunteers, and then also the medical coverage for youth. It's been the recommendation that anybody who goes to camp be registered as a 4-H member before they go to camp. And so 4-H registration can happen anytime during the year. So the recommendation would be that if youth are going to participate in a 4-H camp, that they be registered as members.
So basically they'd be enrolled through 4-H online as a regular 4-H member, not as a group enrollment or short-term,
Correct.
That type of
Correct.
thing. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because typically, camp is going to meet the requirements for contact hours and within the program. And as we said, camp is another delivery mechanism of the full 4-H program. So it is nationally registered or nationally recognized as one of the 7 delivery mechanisms of the 4-H youth development program. And I think we miss out if we do a 4-H camp and we don't fully involve and provide those other opportunities that 4-H membership offers to youth if they're not part of the entire program and enrolled.
And sorry, I've joined late. My other question is, and looking at the policy, so when you're talking about WSU 4-H policies, the impact camp, are you talking about both the overnight camping and the day camping?
Yeah, so what I'm talking about here is, Jennifer, are our general policies that we redid last year. So the 2016 versions of the general 4-H policies and where they fit in. So the standards would then kick in for the overnight camps, and there are no standards that address day camps currently within our system.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Jennifer. I do appreciate you jumping in there and breaking the communication silence.
Only me, silence must impact me, yeah.
And Sherry, thank you for opening up the can of worms at Kevin Parents. You know, we've had those discussions a number of times, but I do appreciate it. And we will have more discussions on that, I'm sure. Okay. So the 4-H camp standards basically were written in 2013. They are the current standards for the camp season of 2017. And know that there's a small group that are reviewing the camp standards for 2018 and beyond. So I appreciate those brave folks who step forward to look at going through the standards. And then the current standards, the 2013 standards, are based loosely off the American Camp Association standards. And the ACA is considered nationally to be the gold standard for camps and their voluntary compliance for ACA accreditation. So what does that mean? That means if we are ever brought into a lawsuit that has the word camp in it, that chances are that the party suing, that their attorneys are going to look at the ACA camp standards, which are considered to be the best management practices for camps, youth camps across the nation. And they will ask why we did not follow the American Camp Association standards. And if we knew that they existed, which of course everyone does, then why were those not followed or adopted? Or were our standards more stringent than the ACA? So it's also a discussion, I think, down the road about the rigor of our standards and the expectations for 4-H camps. And there are a number of states where their 4-H programs are part of ACA, and there are also a number of camps that 4-Hers go to that are ACA accredited, and so that's one of the ways to deal with those. And currently, there are no WSU 4-H camps that are ACA accredited in our state. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background information on ACA, and I'm not going to take a lot of time to do this, but so ACA has a similar mission to us in providing positive youth education and youth development through a camp experience. And they've been around since 1910, and they are a tax-exempt corporation, and they typically are going to have 9,000 plus members and encompass a number of things. And so if you've not been a member of ACA, let me know. I can get you a coupon that gives you a full year of ACA membership at no cost. And it gives you access to a number of their publications and materials and also professional development opportunities in the region as part of that membership. And it's many times that's the place I go to back up information about camps or to do research on scholarly publications that they've done that deal with camp. It's also ACA, their camp magazine is also a potential publication source for faculty who are looking to publish information about camp as well as youth development. So when we look at the ACA accreditation, the standards are really designed to serve camps and programs that conduct activities that have trained leadership that contribute to each participant's mental, physical, social, and spiritual growth, provide a regular experience with participants attending for an established period of time, that include planned, organized group interaction that offers personal growth and skill development, and includes outdoor natural resource environment settings and activities that can teach, a number of skills and that are fun. And so if you look at the accreditation list, you would probably see that they're pretty much in line with when we look at the 4-H Youth Development Program, that they're pretty much a good potential partner for a number of things. And on the state level, they're definitely a partner in a number of the educational opportunities and planning. So it just makes sense that we look at ACA as a source to help us with the delivery of our educational programs.
So, Mike, I see, and I've done a little bit in the horse area because of my, current statewide assignment. But I haven't, and that's embarrassing, I haven't spent a lot of time on the ACA's website. So I saw it says horseback riding. So can I access that to see what their standards are? So
you can, yeah. And
okay.
If you have problems getting to the, you can probably, if you're not a member, you're probably going to see a very shortened version, but I can get you the full access to their horse. And they have a number of standards to deal with horseback riding. So not only from how a camp might contract and what the expectations are for contracts for horses, but then for programs operating, and then both on-site and then out-of-camp horse programs. So they have quite a few standards that really look at risk management and safety around the horse area.
Cool, wonderful.
So ACA accreditation is not licensing. It is basically a educational process that folks go through and then meet the established guidelines and needed policies, procedures, and practices. And it is basically winds up being a marketing tool in many cases for camps that parents who are sending their kids to ACA accredited camps have an idea of what is expected of those camps, and having that accreditation many times makes it much easier for folks to participate. And then, not that I'm trying to sell ACA, but it's just that if you're a member, then there are some privileges. They do have a camp crisis hotline. They do have some communication toolkits and healthy camp toolbox. And so I've been a member of ACA for a number of years. And even though I've not accredited any camps, I'm still involved with ACA. And then I'm involved with ACA on the regional level, that I'm one of their local council of leaders. So I provide input and an advisory component to the to the ACA through the regional. And so if you have questions about ACA resources and you're not a member, don't want to be a member, then I'm happy to help get the information that you need. And so, and I've done that a number of times. I do it a number of times throughout the year. So when somebody wants to know if they're hiring a camp director or want a job description for camp director, I can easily go out to HCA and pull up 5 or 6 different job descriptions for camp directors, as well as there are other resources that are out there. I know that some counties have, for their camps, have purchased ACA training materials and use them with camp staff. So there's a whole host of things that can help us there. So, so when we look at the WSU 4-H camp standards, what does that mean to you? What do those standards, what is your understanding? What has been your historical understanding of those standards? So I'm still fairly new. So I've been here 3 years, been in this role as the camp specialist for almost that entire 3 years. But I didn't create the standards. I wasn't involved with the creation of the standards. And I don't know what came before those standards. So my question to you is, what is your understanding of the camp standards? And this is helpful. This is going to be helpful because as we look at revising, retooling the standards for the future, knowing what the roots were and where you came from is very helpful.
So Mike, of course, I'm willing to share because I've been here since dinosaurs roamed the earth. And actually, Southwest Washington used to have a resident camp at Camp Mayfield in Lewis County. So I was involved in camping. We rotated. It was a Southwest District camp, and as county agents, we rotated who took the lead. Okay. And at that time, we did not have WSU 4-H camp standards. So, I mean, we're blessed to have a good camp director with good training of counselors. We were blessed to not have any major incidents. Thank you. And then, you know, as usual, what drives a university to do something, if something happens in a negative way and the university gets sued, and that happened in a certain county. And then at that point in time, Pat Boys had asked Jana Ferris to step up because she really had the background from Girl Scouts and doing camp standards. And Girl Scouts, you know, they really do good jobs with Boy Scouts. So that's kind of a little bit of the history.
Okay, that's helpful. And
Mike, this is Lisa.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I am good. Good to see y'all. Just to kind of answer, well, I'll give you my answer as far as when I read those camp standards, to me, it is just a very helpful framework to look at how we structure things. So without that, you know, are we missing pieces? But having those standards, I know when I go, okay, does this work? Does this not work? That's how the standards are helpful, is just having that guide and here's what needs to happen, or no, that doesn't work. So it's pretty helpful for me, just cut and dried.
Okay, good. Appreciate you sharing that. Anyone else? And the chat box is silent too, so I'll keep checking there too. So here's a challenge. I hope you're up to a challenge this morning. And you don't have to answer this all today. So if you don't want to take it as a challenge you can do right now, you can consider it homework. But as we're looking at the camp standards, what are the standards that challenge your camp the most? And the ones that are most difficult for you to comply with. And then what input, feedback do you have on the current standards? And this doesn't necessarily have to be just you as faculty or staff, but I would really encourage you to take this to your camp committees and to tell them that we're asking them for their input into the current standards. And we want to know what you would like left unchanged, but then also what you'd like changed, modified, or deleted. And know that the same procedures that we went through with the changes for the 4-H policies will wind up going through the changes in the camp standards, that it will be developed by a small group. That group would then make the recommendations to Doreen and probably to faculty and staff in some way. Then those recommendations will then move up through administration and will then probably be reviewed by the university's Attorney General's office to make sure that we're in compliance. And then once that process has gone through, will then be kind of published, and then the opportunities for volunteer and staff development on those new standards provided for everyone within the state. So anybody have any burning ideas or suggestions, or wants to get this off their plate so they don't have homework?
Oh, heck no, no burning ideas or anything. But what I wanted to share was just for me with the newest policy update, what I truly love about it for on many things, but is the fact that it ties into those essential elements. So when you were asking about feedback, and as I think about standards, again, that, you know, it has to do with why we do the things we do. So I just throw that out, that, you know, however we can make those relevant so that people understand. When I tell people how I ended up being going to the first camp director training, fighting, screaming, not really, but it was Jana putting it all into context with what they learned and the whole essential elements thing. Right. So it works.
Yeah, and that is the intent as the small group goes forward, is to put the standards in the context of the essential elements. And
oh, that's great. That's great.
So it really aligns with the overarching 4-H policies. And at the American Camp Association meeting earlier this year in Albuquerque, Robin Galloway from Oregon and I led the pre-conference for 4-H camp professionals. And that was one of the things that we talked about and had the group from around the country talk about, is how do we incorporate essential elements into 4-H camp policy standards and procedures. And it was really a good interaction with camps from around the country. And currently there's no set of camp standards or policies that directly connect to the essential elements across the country. So we have the opportunity to be the first. But thank you, Lisa, for bringing that up. Anything else? Okay, then this is homework for all of you. And I've got your names in the participant list. So we know who you are. So please go back, think about this. You can email me with your ideas. I'll also put this out as a question through 4-H Talk where we're asking for your input as the brave small committee begins to look at the task of reviewing and connecting the policies. Yes, you did, Jennifer. You are part of that small brave committee.
I'm brave. Yeah.
So yeah, and thank you for agreeing to that. So I think we have there's 4 faculty and 2 staff that are part of that. So the other component. So when we look at the 4-H policies for Washington, then we look at the camp standards. Then the next level of rules, regulations, procedures comes down to the local camps. And so I know that many camps have their own kind of procedures or kind of their volunteer trainings or kind of documents that they've done for camps. But I just wanted to ask the question of how many camps have additional policies or procedures that you train volunteers and staff or operate camp with, and what do those look like? So if you're unsure, this is an opportunity for participation.
Again, there's silence.
There is.
Yeah. Of course, I can't offer much because haven't had a camp in a long time. I guess the other piece is to me, it'd be interesting to know, or maybe Mike, you already know this, is how many counties have specialty camps. You know, I know we have some counties that have horse camps. Of course, that's my area of interest. Yeah. But are there other counties that have like shooting sports camps or arts and crafts or robotics? Or just be kind of interested to know if they do some specialty camps and how successful has that been?
Yeah, and so many of those camps may be more in the day camp area, because I've not seen any of the specialty camps come through the intent to camp process other than horse camps. And so Lisa harnessed with hers, and then Spokane County with the number of horse camps that they have for them. But I've not seen any other specialty camps. That's really a good question. Maybe have any input, ideas? Want to make something up?
Oh, sure. Let's make it up. So really a day camp, though, I know earlier you said that there weren't any specific standards, policies that were set. And I'll just throw it out here. No, I haven't sent you one because I didn't think it fit the realm of it. So we do something, it's in the last week of June generally. It's a morning, 5 days in a row, kind of still life camp.
Oh, cool.
So there's no overnight, there's no big plan of, I have a handful of volunteers that plan this, and from 9 to noon, those kids are busy, active, doing a variety of things. And I'd love to say that right here in my very hand, I have some good, practices that are involved in that, but I don't right at the moment. But I know they very thoroughly look at things that are age appropriate, because the participation can vary from clover buds, now that we call them clover buds, all the way up to older youth. And we have generally had like 8th grade or higher youth that will come in and assist with some of those things that are already doing leadership maybe within their club. And I guess thinking about that and saying it out loud, I think it would be helpful if I were very intentional about providing them some training that would help them work with other youth. So that's something I'm going to make a note of.
Yeah. So even something like the mentoring training for those
Yes.
would be very appropriate and help them understand kind of the ages and stages and their
Yeah.
role and boundaries. And so, yeah, you're saying that would be a perfect training for those kind of youth that are really in kind of a mentorship role. It sounds like that. So, and, so I don't know that we're going to be developing the 4-H day camp kind of standards or policies. But in all of those cases, if there isn't a policy if there isn't a standard that's in place, then the 4-H general policies would kind of provide that guidance for those activities. And I think that our policies are broad enough that they would give some direction to day camps, but not specific direction. So I think we're still covered in operating day camps under those general 4-H guidelines and policies. But in many states, they do have specific day camp policies as well. And then for all of us that are involved in the National Mentoring Program, then there's that expectation of some kind of a summer kind of program. And I know for like in our county that we use the county fair and set up a portion of the 4-H fair building for the tech wizards and operate that as a day camp for the kids that are involved in NMP7 and use it as a promotion tool for the creating the next cadre of mentees with that program as well. So we use basically our fair as a form of a day camp. So and that's worked out well for us. Okay, so we've spent about 45 minutes talking about policies, procedures, standards. You've got a challenge and the opportunity to provide input into the next generation of the standards. Anybody have a question or need some clarification on anything? Now is the time to speak up.
When is the timeline for the revised standards, or when would you like feedback by?
So feedback probably within the next month, just because we'll be into the camp season and nobody wants to think about anything beyond getting the camp over with. So probably within the next 30 days, the committee will be begin meeting probably the first or second week of May. But if you're meeting with your camp committees on the county level, it's a good kind of challenge to them to kind of have a say in what those standards would be. So as they're thinking about the things that give them heartburn as they're planning camp, chances are it's a standard that's creating that heartburn. Their feedback or input would be very helpful.
Okay, thanks.
So Mike, time-wise with the process you shared with us is reviewing the camp standards and it goes through the food chain. Do you anticipate, your hope is that for next year that we'll have these new revised camp standards?
Yeah, so my hope is that for the 2018 camp season that we will actually have new standards for folks to operate under. So that's, and beginning now, it will take us till the spring of next year to have it go through the entire process and then hopefully even to create at least a training template for each of the counties that have camps to work with. So, and then to look at what the needs would be beyond that as far as more specialized standards for day camp or for military camps, those kind of things.
Thank you.
So that's why I say that the small, brave committee that will be taking that on. So, and we are looking for additional members. So if you really enjoy the process of standards and policy making, we've got the opportunity for you. Well, good. Well, any other questions? Well, thank you all for being part of this today. If you have additional questions, you can reach me through email or phone or Zoom. Happy to do those. If your camp committees would like to have a discussion, happy to set those up as Zoom meetings to have those kind of discussions if there's something specific that they'd like to talk about. So just let me know. We can schedule it in. My job is to help you be successful in delivering the 4-H Youth Development Program through camp. And I take that very seriously and want to do everything I can to help you be successful in camp. I love camp. It's always a lot of hard work, but the payoffs can be large. When Lauren and I were in Florida, we were in a county that had a state-run camp. They did an open house for the general public, and a gentleman came there who had not been a 4-H member, but had been to camp as a kid, came to camp and was impressed with what he saw, and pulled out his checkbook and wrote a $60,000 check to the camp. No strings on the money. It could be used to make sure the kids had a great experience at camp. And that helped to provide, a number of years of enhanced programs. So you never know when what you're doing in camp is going to pay off in a big way. So.
Well, Mike, thanks for doing these webinars, because I think they're really helpful. I know there's not a lot of huge turnout, but I think it's really good to be able to have these times to ask questions, or just that information is out there and we have an opportunity to learn more. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so in May, there'll be 4 more webinars that will be offered. And a couple of those are, one's at 10 in the morning, one's at 2 in the afternoon. So there's opportunities. I don't expect anybody to go to them all other than me. We are recording those and we'll make those available. But if there's also some topics that you'd like discussed in future webinars, web meetings, then I'm happy to look at how we do those. So
I have a quick question real quick. I'm just wondering, has anyone used common measures to evaluate the impact of your camp?
So Jana had some common measures that she was using probably 4 or 5 years ago. And there's also an evaluation by, and I can't think of Mary's last name, out of Oregon.
Arnold?
Mary Arnold, yes. Oregon has offered to share their, to allow us to use their camp survey.
Okay.
They do that with 100% of their youth who camp.
Oh, okay. And do you have a copy of that survey?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I can get their latest and greatest. So
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know if many of you know, but Oregon, the state of Oregon, had passed legislation that provides money for all youth, and I think the 5th and 6th grades to have a camp experience. And that state project is being run through 4-H in Oregon. And so they will touch pretty much every 5th and 6th grader in the state of Oregon with not necessarily all 4-H camps, but they will be kind of the main connectors with those kids to a camping experience. So what a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just kind of like if you can dream it, we can do it. So they dreamt it, and now they're going to reap the benefit of that camp opportunity. So
well,
again,
both my girls grew up in Oregon and they went to outdoor camp. So.
Okay. So yeah, so there are opportunities for extension and camping to continue. It'll be interesting to see the how this goes in Oregon. Well, thank you all for being part of this today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and look forward to seeing you on some of the webinars coming up. And I'll have this kind of processed and probably up on the web by Monday of next week. So 4-H Camp rocks.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.